So I recently got a really good question from somebody on YouTube. The patient picker asked me, when I buy stuff on eBay, do I do auctions, buy it now? Do I do best offers? What about when I sell? When I sell, do I do auctions only? Do I do buy it nows? Do I do best offers? And so I think a lot of us have an idea of what we think the best method might be, but there's no evidence really behind it. So as always, I think let's run some numbers. Let's look at the data. The data should be telling us what the best move is. So I randomly picked 4 different cards. One card from the 50s, one from the 60s, one from the 70s, and one from the 80s. And I compared what are the auction prices of the final sale price to buy it now prices. I didn't do any best offers because who knows what could happen, and eBay doesn't really disclose that information. So the best way to do this was to look at numbers and see, does it make a difference? To be honest, after I threw this in a spreadsheet and did a little bit of research, I was a little surprised by what I found. So take a look at these numbers with me, and let's see if you're surprised as well, or if it confirmed what you already thought. Ultimately, I think the answer is we still may not really know. Take a look, tell me what you think.
So what we did was look at 4 different cards. For the 1950s, we have a 1958 Hank Aaron. We have a 1969 Reggie Jackson, 1975 Nolan Ryan, and a 1983 Tony Gwynn. And I used obviously the same grade because we want to be comparing the same exact card. So when we look here, I just did the last 4 sales because I wanted a really tight window. Because the market is changing, I wanted to make sure that we are comparing similar data to the exact same period of time. You can see here the buy it now sale price of this Hank Aaron is $311.25, but the average of the auction is $171.50. So that's a difference of $139.75. The buy it nows are getting 81.49% more return than the auctions. Seems clear there. We want to be selling that as buy it now. If we look at the Reggie Jackson PSA 6 1969, the auction is $428.25, but the buy it now is $415.90. So when we look at these 2 cards, it's pretty darn close, like a 3% difference, about $12, but it doesn't really seem to matter if it's an auction or a buy it now. Now we have to kind of look at the numbers. There's one really high one there, $475 on November 7th. And then there's one really low one in a buy it now of $375. So we'll come back to that in a minute. The Nolan Ryan 1975, the auction is $158.86, and the buy it now is $133.50. So it's 20% more for an auction. So it's interesting that the Hank Aaron was clearly more valuable in the sale price for a buy it now, but then the next 2 lean toward the auction. The Tony Gwynn is $29.13 in auction and $47.49 in buy it now. So that is significantly more that they're getting for the buy it now than the auction. So now that we kind of have this data, we have to kind of look at it and think about it. Again, in that Nolan Ryan there's the one card that sold for $100 as a buy it now. Now, why is it so low? It's possible it was way off center, but sometimes I think people just need to free up cash quick. So they'll post something as a buy it now with a really low price. And as a result, it can be a good purchase. The auction, there was one there. It looks like there was a bidding war on November 8th for that Nolan Ryan. It went for $207.86. So you have the same card 11 days apart. And the buy it now was 100 on one, and then 207.86 for the auction. So obviously we don't have all of the information, but why was there a bidding war for that particular one? It's the same grade as the card that sold the day before for 133.50. Maybe it was really well centered, or maybe just two people wanted it, I guess. It's really hard to say. But one of the things that auctions versus buy it nows present is the time element. Any economics class, now I took a lot of economics in college, and I'm one of these economic nerds that I've even read books on economics just because it's something I'm interested in. And one of the elements that affects the price of something, the sale price of something, is the time element. That's why when you go to a car dealership, they'll say, well, we don't know if the sale price will be, there in a week or in a day. We don't know if we're going to have enough inventory if we sell these. So you better get the deal today. The reason for sales is they want to put a sense of urgency for you on the time. And that's the thing that can kind of play a role here. If there's a buy it now, it's possible that buy it now is going to sit around for a while, especially if there's a couple of them with the same grade. But in auction, we may think we're going to have the highest bids, so we may not feel the competition, even though maybe we should. But to me, when we look at these four cards, the Hank Aaron and the Tony Gwynn clearly are selling for more in a buy it now than an auction. And we use a variety of price levels here. The Aaron up there is in the 300 range. The Reggie Jackson is higher. The Nolan Ryan is kind of between the Reggie Jackson and the Tony Gwynn. So it doesn't seem like the time element. So sometimes it might just depend on the card. Interesting data. I tend to think if you can be patient, go with the auction.